Maria's hands trembled as she counted the bills in the register for the third time, knowing the number wouldn't magically change. $47.32. That's all that stood between her family's dream and complete financial ruin. Outside, the neon sign of Abula's kitchen flickered weakly, as if it too was gasping for breath. The restaurant that had once filled her grandmother's heart with pride now felt like a tomb, echoing with the ghosts of laughter and the clatter of plates that hadn't been heard in weeks. She pressed her forehead against the cool glass of the front window, watching the bustling street where people hurried past without a second glance at her empty dining room. 3 months ago, the new chain restaurant had opened 2 blocks down, promising authentic Mexican cuisine at half her prices. What they served was a mockery of her grandmother's recipes, but customers didn't seem to care. They cared about their wallets, and Maria couldn't blame them. Times were tough for everyone. The eviction notice crumpled in her back pocket felt like a lead weight. 30 days. That's all she had left to turn things around or lose everything her family had built over 3 generations. The thought of calling her grandmother in Mexico City with the news made her stomach churn. Abula Rosa had sacrificed everything to start this place in 1962. Working 18-hour days, learning English 1 word at a time, and pouring her soul into every dish that left the kitchen. "We're not giving up," Maria whispered to the empty room, her breath fogging the glass. But even as she said it, she wondered if hope was just another luxury she couldn't afford. The bell above the door chimed, and Maria quickly wiped her eyes, turning with the practiced smile she'd perfected over 15 years of restaurant service. A man stood in the doorway, his clothes clean but worn, clutching a folded newspaper in one hand and a small girl's backpack in the other. "Excuse me," he said, his voice gentle but tired. "I saw your help wanted sign in the window. Are you still hiring?" Maria's heart sank. She'd forgotten to take down that sign from 2 weeks ago when she'd still harbored dreams of expanding her staff. "I'm sorry, but we're actually Daddy, can I color while you talk?" A little girl peeked out from behind the man's legs, her dark eyes bright with curiosity. She couldn't have been more than 6 years old, her hair pulled back in slightly crooked pigtails that suggested a father learning to navigate morning routines alone. "Of course, Mija," the man said, his entire demeanor softening as he looked down at his daughter. "Stay right here where I can see you, okay?" Maria watched as the little girl settled into a booth, carefully arranging her coloring books and crayons with the precision of a child accustomed to entertaining herself. The sight tugged at something deep in her chest. She remembered being that age, sitting in this very restaurant while her mother and grandmother worked, the kitchen's warmth wrapping around her like a hug. "I'm Miguel Santos," the man said, extending his hand. His grip was firm, calloused from hard work. "I know you probably have a lot of applicants, but I'm willing to start anywhere. Dishwasher, prep cook, whatever you need. I have experience." Maria found herself studying his face. There was something in his eyes, a quiet desperation that matched her own, but also a determination that she recognized. It was the same look she'd seen in her grandmother's old photographs. The ones from the early days when every customer was a victory and every empty night a test of faith. "What kind of experience?" she asked, though she already knew she couldn't afford to hire anyone. 15 years in kitchens, Miguel said, his voice gaining strength. "Started as a dishwasher when I was 16, worked my way up to sous chef at Romano's downtown before." He paused, glancing at his daughter. "Before things changed. I can work any station, and I learn fast." Romano's. Maria knew the place, upscale Italian, the kind of restaurant where reservations were made weeks in advance. What was someone with that background doing answering her hastily scrawled help wanted sign? "Look," Miguel continued, his voice dropping to almost a whisper, "I know this might sound desperate, but I am desperate. Emma starts school next week, and I need this job. I'll work for minimum wage, cash if that's easier. No benefits required. I just need a chance. Maria's throat tightened. She recognized the raw honesty in his voice, the careful way he avoided his daughter's curious gaze when he mentioned being desperate. This was a man hanging on by a thread, just like her. I wish I could help, she began, but honestly, business has been slow, and yeah, Daddy, look. Emma held up her coloring book, a vibrant butterfly filled in with careful precision. It's for the nice lady. The picture was beautiful, but it was Emma's gap-toothed smile that nearly broke Maria's resolve. When was the last time someone had walked into her restaurant and smiled like that? When was the last time she'd seen joy in this place that had once been filled with it? That's beautiful, sweetheart, Maria said, accepting the picture. You're very talented. Mom, I used to say I got my artistic hands from Daddy, Emma said proudly. He makes food look like pictures too. Miguel's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly, and Maria caught the past tense. Mom, I used to say. The pieces began falling into place here, the worn clothes that were still clean and pressed, the way he kept his daughter close but tried to conduct business, the careful way he spoke about his situation. I'll tell you what, Maria heard herself saying, though her rational mind screamed warnings about money she didn't have. It's almost lunch rush. Why don't you show me what you can do? Just for today. If it works out, we can talk about something more permanent. Miguel's eyes widened. Are you serious? I'm probably crazy, Maria admitted, but I have a good feeling about you. Emma can stay right here where she can see you through the kitchen window. The lunch rush, such as it was, brought in exactly 4 customers over 2 hours. But Maria watched in amazement as Miguel transformed her kitchen. He moved with an efficiency she hadn't seen since her grandmother's day, his hands flying as he prepped vegetables with perfect knife work and seasoned dishes with an intuitive understanding that couldn't be taught. More importantly, he listened. When she explained how her grandmother made the mole, he nodded thoughtfully and asked questions that showed he understood the soul of the recipe, not just the technique. When she mentioned that customers complained their salsa wasn't spicy enough, he suggested a blend of chilies that would add heat without overwhelming the flavor. Try this, he said during a quiet moment, sliding a small plate across the counter. He'd taken their standard chicken quesadilla and somehow elevated it into something extraordinary. The cheese was perfectly melted, the chicken seasoned with spices she couldn't identify, and the tortilla had achieved a golden crispness that practically sang. Maria took a bite and closed her eyes. It was familiar yet new, honoring her grandmother's techniques while adding something uniquely special. Miguel, this is incredible. What did you do differently? He smiled, the first truly relaxed expression she'd seen from him all day. It's not what I added, it's what I remembered. My grandmother always said food tastes better when you cook with love instead of fear. I spent the last 6 months cooking afraid I wouldn't find work, afraid I couldn't provide for Emma, afraid of failing. But today, for the first time in a long time, I remembered why I fell in love with cooking. As the afternoon wore on, something magical happened. The few customers they had lingered longer, asked about dishes they hadn't ordered, and left larger tips. Word seemed to spread somehow, because by evening, they had more walk-ins than they'd seen in weeks. Miguel worked seamlessly with Maria, their rhythm developing as naturally as if they'd been cooking together for years. He deferred to her knowledge of the family recipes while offering subtle suggestions that enhanced without overwhelming. Most importantly, he brought an energy to the kitchen that Maria realized she'd been missing, the joy of cooking for people who appreciated it. Daddy, I'm hungry, Emma announced around 7 o'clock, looking up from her homework with the patient expression of a child accustomed to waiting. Of course, Mija. Let me make you something quick, Miguel said, but Maria was already moving. "What's your favorite?" she asked Emma. "Grilled cheese," Emma said shyly, "but Daddy doesn't know how to make it the way Mama did." Maria's heart clenched, but she smiled. "Well, let's see what we can do about that." She prepared a simple grilled cheese sandwich, but with the care and attention she'd once reserved for her most important customers. Golden sourdough, 3 cheeses melted to perfection, served with a small cup of tomato soup that had been simmering all day. Emma took one bite and her eyes filled with tears. "It tastes like Mama's," she whispered. Miguel's composure finally cracked, and Maria saw him quickly wipe his eyes as he turned back to the stove. In that moment, she understood something profound. They weren't just cooking food. They were creating comfort, building connections, offering something that fed more than hunger. "Miguel," she said quietly, "I can't pay you much. Honestly, I can barely pay myself right now. But if you're willing to take a chance on a struggling restaurant, I'd like to offer you a job. Real hours, real pay as soon as we can manage it, and a chance to help me save something worth saving." He turned from the stove, his eyes bright with unshed tears. "Maria, you don't understand. This place, what you're doing here, it's not just a restaurant. It's exactly what Emma and I needed." The answer is yes. Absolutely yes. Over the following weeks, something remarkable happened. Miguel's presence in the kitchen didn't just improve the food, it restored the soul of the restaurant. His secret ingredient wasn't a spice or technique, it was hope. Help seasoned every dish. Hope welcomed every customer. Hope transformed the atmosphere from desperate to determined. Word spread through the neighborhood about the amazing food at Abula's kitchen. Food bloggers discovered them, social media posts went viral, and suddenly they had lines out the door. But more than that, they had become a gathering place again, a spot where families celebrated and couples fell in love and lone diners found comfort. 3 months later, Maria stood in the same spot where she'd counted her last $47, but now she was watching Miguel teach Emma how to fold napkins while customers filled every table. The eviction notice had been replaced by expansion plans, and the flickering neon sign now blazed proudly against the evening sky. "Abula Rosa would be proud," she murmured, touching the framed photo of her grandmother that watched over the dining room. "She's proud," Miguel said, appearing beside her with 2 cups of coffee. "I can feel it every time we cook. This place has magic in it, Maria. You just needed someone to help you remember." As they watched Emma carefully arranging silverware under the patient guidance of their newest waitress, a grandmother from the neighborhood who'd become like family, Maria realized that sometimes the most beautiful things in life come from the most desperate moments. Sometimes when you think you're saving someone else, you discover they were actually saving you. The secret ingredient had never been missing from Abula's kitchen. It had just been waiting for the right person to help it shine again. And sometimes, Maria thought as she watched her restaurant family laugh together, that's exactly how miracles work. One act of faith, one moment of kindness, one decision to see hope instead of fear. The bell above the door chimed with new arrivals, and Maria smiled, straightening her apron. There was work to do, dreams to serve, and hope to share, one plate at a time.